All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started here on lesson 5.4, which is zero product property. In this case, students can solve the zeros of a quadratic function in factored form. So we are going to be seeing expressions in factored form. We saw factored form when we were doing diamond method back in the previous chapter. So we'll go ahead and see that again in this chapter. A few of our vocab terms here is factored form, zeros, lesser or greater. In this case, guys, zeros of the function actually talk about the x-intercepts. So whenever you're factoring out an expression, you do have two binomial expressions. Those binomials, if you solve for x, will give you the x-intercepts. So let's go ahead and get started here, guys. So example 1 in this case, guys, want to go ahead and solve for x, guys. Solve for x in this case. Now, each time we're solving for x, we're actually finding our x-intercept. So once again, this here, guys, that is known as factored form. Factored form, if we have our equation, quadratic equation, in standard form, which we won't be seeing until later on, from standard form, I could actually rewrite it in factored form by doing the diamond method. So this here, once again, is factored form. And we want to go ahead and solve for x. So since we have two different binomial expressions here, I'm just going to go ahead and erase this. Two different binomial expressions, and we want to solve for x. You actually have to break these two up. So you're actually going to make each of them equal to 0. So you're going to have two separate equations in this case where you're going to be solving for x. Starting off with my left-hand side, I just want to go ahead and draw a line here, just so I know my two sides. First thing I want to do here, guys, is I want to go ahead and add 1 to both sides. Since our goal in this case is to solve for x, bring down the 2x equal to a 1. Next step in this case, guys, is if we want to go ahead and solve for x, we need to divide this 2. Do the opposite, which is divide by 2. So x in this case equals 1/2. All right, that's the first one. Now let's go ahead and do over here. Once again, since we want to go ahead and solve for x, I will be doing the opposite, which is subtract the 4. And that's actually all I have to do there. In this case, our x is going to equal a -4. So in this case, our solutions would be -4 and 1/2. Now, only thing, guys, when you guys do your assignment on Khan Academy, it is going to be asking for the lesser and the greater value. In this case, if I were to compare these two, this here would be my lesser value because it's negative, and this would be our greater value. All right. So that's today's lesson, guys. That's what we're doing on today's lesson. So let's go ahead and check out this next one. In this case, it says, for what x values does f of x equal 0? Now, one thing, guys, we're working with functions, so you will be seeing f of x a lot. F of x in this case is just a fancy way of saying y. It's just fancy for y. So f of x, g of h, h of x, k of x, r of x, any of those guys, it's just representing y. So in this case, we want to go ahead and find what x values will f of x equal 0. All we have to do in this case is that instead of writing f of x, I will be substituting that for a 0. So I will be writing this once again. And this is 0 equals x minus 5 times 5x plus 2. All right, since we want to go ahead and solve for x here, we will be breaking this apart. And I have x minus 5 equal to 0 and 5x plus 2 equal to 0. All right, so all we're doing here is solving for x. So once again, if I want to go ahead and solve for x on the left-hand side, first thing I want to go ahead and do is get rid of that -5. So let's go ahead and do the opposite. Let's add a 5. And I have x equals a 5. So that's the first one. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which in this case is the 5x plus 2. First thing I want to go ahead and do is move all numbers to one side. So I will be doing the opposite with that 2, which is subtract the 2. All right, and we have a 5x equals a -2. Next step in this case is to leave the x alone, so I will be doing the opposite, which is divide by 5. So x in this case is going to equal -2/5. All right. Once again, it is going to be asking for the lesser and the greater value. So our lesser value in this case would obviously be the negative number. So this is the lesser number. And this is the greater. All right. And last example, guys. Last example. All right. Solve for x in this case. And we have a 2x plus 4 times 3x minus 2. Once again, first thing, let's break these apart. And we have a 2x. We have a 2x plus 4 equal to 0. And 3x minus 2 equal to 0. Alright, starting off here with the left-hand side, guys, I want to go ahead and start off with the 4. So let's subtract 4 to both sides. And I have a 2x equal to a -4. Next step in this case is, since we want to go ahead and get rid of the 2, opposite of multiplying a 2 is dividing. So we'll divide both sides by 2. And in this case, we have x equals -2. So that's the first one. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And I have a 3x minus a 2 equal to 0. So in this case, I want to go ahead and move the -2 to the other side. So let's go ahead and add 2 to both sides. And I have a 3x equal to 2. All right, next step, divide both sides by 3. So x in this case equals 2/3. And that would be our answer. All right, in con, guys, once again, they're going to be asking you for the lesser and the greater value. So our lesser value here would be the negative, and this is the greater. All right. And that's pretty much concluding the lesson, guys. This is your practice problem, so make sure you guys complete this. This is a you do, so make sure you complete this.